Oh, so we got the gentleman from North Carolina, Mr. Harris.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Director Patel, for your endurance and your perseverance throughout today's hearing and for all you've shared. First of all, let me start by saying that I was very grateful and glad to see that the FBI has joined the investigation of the tragic and brutal murder of Iryna Zarutska in Charlotte, which is just right by my district. This woman, as you know, fled the war in Ukraine only to be killed in cold blood by a man who had no business being on the streets whatsoever. This man, who had been seen stabbing Iryna to death on video, had been arrested 14 previous times, served prison time, and was diagnosed with a severe mental illness. In response to the previous offense, the magistrate over his case released him to roam the streets with a $0 bond and a simple written promise to appear in court. Mr. Patel, let me just ask, should judges apply the most lenient bail standards to people with extensive criminal history?
Do they apply the most lenient? I'm sorry.
Yeah, should they apply the most lenient bail standards to people with extensive criminal history?
That has not been my experience. That should not happen.
Is America a place where young women should fear to ride public transit?
No.
And was Iryna Zarutska's death, would you say, possibly the result of Democrats' pro-crime policies?
That investigation and matter is in open trial, so I don't want to stylize the evidence.
I understand. Well, Mr. Patel, let me just say, taking over the FBI after the Biden administration's blatant weaponization of the agency is no easy feat, as we've recognized throughout this hearing today. For 4 years, we witnessed the Biden administration targeting regular Americans rather than violent criminals. For example, the Biden administration's FBI spent its time and resources going after churches and Christians. We know that the FBI used an undercover agent to collect information about a parishioner. We know that the FBI investigated and surveilled a Catholic priest. And all of this was in response to First Amendment protected activity. Mr. Patel, I want to ask you, should the FBI use its resources to spy on Catholics?
Never.
So what does it say about the culture of the Biden FBI that law enforcement resources were used to go after Catholics, and some FBI employees were comfortable with taking such actions?
Well, pursuant to my transparency initiative and working with Congress on oversight, those documents, that's it. Those documents are available for the American public to see and read and hold people accountable, and that's what I'm committed to.
And so have you been able to hold accountable those at the FBI who went after law-abiding Catholic church members?
If they did so improperly, yes.
Well, I've been a pastor for 36 years, and I've constantly stood up for life and stood up for family amidst a culture that's increasingly hostile to both of those things. And if the Biden administration targeted Catholics, could I have been targeted by the Ray FBI as well?
Well, I don't know, but I'm not going to target you.
Well, I know that President Trump respects religious liberty and that his administration is seeking to right the wrongs of the Biden administration. Securing our freedoms and protecting faith leaders and communities requires a multi-pronged approach. What would you say in just the last few moments, what is the FBI under your leadership doing to make sure that our religious liberty and religious leaders can rest comfortable this evening?
Zealously protecting our First Amendment rights,
Amen.
But zealously going after those that abuse that right that leads to criminal conduct. You will be investigated, you will be looked at, and referred to prosecution every single time the evidence warrants.
Thank you, sir. One final area. I do want to draw attention, Mr. Patel, to Waxhaw, North Carolina, a town in my district that just fell victim to a cyber attack on September 12th that interrupted emergency services. Waxhaw is working with state partners, and the FBI has been notified on this attack, and I certainly pray they're able to help out with the ongoing investigation. Could you just speak to what the FBI is doing to bolster our community's cybersecurity to defend against any future cyber attacks?
Well, in North Carolina, you're slated to get a plus-up of 22 FBI employees, and they're already on the way. And that encompasses cyber, counter-intel, counterterrorism, field agents, intel operatives. And what we're doing on a macro level on the counterintelligence and cyber front is going after the people that fund these operations on these online platforms and breaking their banks. Because once we do that successfully across the board, they won't have the ability to attack us.
Well, thank you, Director Patel, and let me just add my comments to those of my colleagues that are very grateful for your leadership, grateful for your courage, your consistency, and for being willing to stand in the gap for us. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Missouri is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
At a House Judiciary Committee hearing on Wednesday, Representative Mark Harris, Republican, North Carolina, used his time to confront FBI Director Kash Patel over issues ranging from violent crime in his home state to allegations of government overreach under the Biden administration. His questions centered on the brutal killing of Iryna Zarutska, a Ukrainian refugee, and broader concerns about bail policies, religious liberty, and cyberattacks targeting small-town America. Harris began by recounting the tragic case of Zarutska, who fled war-torn Ukraine seeking safety in the United States, only to be stabbed to death in Charlotte. The murder shocked the community and, according to Harris, highlighted what he called a breakdown in public safety. The suspect in the case had been arrested 14 times, had served prison sentences, and was diagnosed with a severe mental illness. Yet, he was released by a magistrate with only a written promise to appear in court. Harris pressed Patel on whether judges should apply lenient bail standards to individuals with such extensive criminal records. Patel was clear in his response, "That has not been my experience. That should not happen." Harris followed with a pointed question. Should young women in America fear riding public transit? No, Patel replied. When Harris suggested that Zarutska's death could be tied to Democratic pro-crime policies, Patel declined to assign political blame, reminding the committee that the case remains an open trial and he would not comment on the evidence. The exchange then shifted to Harris's sharp criticism of what he described as the Biden administration's weaponization of the FBI. He accused the Bureau of spending resources investigating churches and Catholics rather than focusing on violent criminals. Harris cited reports that undercover agents had been used to monitor a Catholic parishioner and even a priest. When asked if the FBI should use its resources to spy on Catholics, Patel firmly answered, "Never." Patel stressed his transparency initiative, promising that documents related to such actions would be made public so Americans could see for themselves what happened and who should be held accountable. Harris pressed further, asking if the Bureau had held employees accountable for improperly targeting Catholics. Patel responded, "Yes, but without going into detail in the public setting." Harris then brought a personal angle into the discussion, noting that he has served as a pastor for 36 years, often speaking out in defense of life and family values. In a culture he described as increasingly hostile to faith, he asked whether he too could have been targeted. Patel reassured him directly, "I don't know, but I'm not going to target you." The congressman also acknowledged former President Donald Trump's stance on religious liberty, contrasting it with his accusations against the Biden administration. He asked Patel what steps the FBI under his leadership was taking to ensure that religious leaders and communities could feel secure in their rights. Patel responded that his FBI would zealously protect First Amendment rights, while making it clear that individuals who abuse those rights to commit crimes would face investigation and prosecution. Harris concluded by raising another issue back home, a September 12th cyber attack in Waxhaw, North Carolina, that disrupted emergency services in the small town. He urged Patel to provide support and assistance. Patel assured him the FBI had been notified and was already engaged. He also revealed that North Carolina is slated to receive 22 additional FBI personnel, including cyber specialists, counterintelligence officers, counterterrorism experts, and field agents. These reinforcements, Patel said, will help communities defend against digital threats. On a broader scale, he explained that the Bureau is focused on targeting the financial networks behind cyber attacks, breaking their banks to prevent future strikes. Before yielding back, Harris thanked Patel for what he described as courage, consistency, and a willingness to stand in the gap at a time of deep political division. His remarks underscored both the anger in his district over violent crime and his broader critique of how federal law enforcement has been managed under President Biden.